In a provincial house in the early 1930s, two sisters who had served a single family for years carried out an attack so shocking that the country could not look away. They returned home, cleaned themselves, and went to bed. What led to this collapse of mind, body, and law, and how did a nation try to understand it? Two sisters worked as live-in maids for a middle-class household. They were responsible for cleaning, childcare, and domestic labor, often working long hours in cramped quarters with little privacy or pay. Co-workers and neighbors described them as withdrawn, punctual, and unusually attached to each other. Over time, pressure, isolation, and alleged mistreatment accumulated. Domestic service in the period carried rigid social hierarchies. Servants were visible but not heard. Their lives were regulated by the rhythms of their employers' households. Contemporary letters and press reports suggest tensions in this particular house, reports of harsh discipline, belittling remarks, and an emotional climate that weighed on the sisters. On the winter day in question, a confrontation escalated into a violent attack. Rather than recreate gore, we focus on sequence and consequence. Sudden commotion, neighbors alerted, and then the discovery by police. The victims sustained catastrophic, fatal injuries that shocked investigators. Officers arriving at the scene later recalled the intensity of what they found and their immediate distress. The crime dominated headlines and provoked public outrage and morbid fascination. Photographs of the household and press dispatches circulated. Some commentators framed the act as cold-blooded cruelty. Others sought psychological explanations. The legal system prepared for a trial that would test the boundaries between moral culpability and mental illness. At trial, medical testimony described the sisters' psychological state. Experts debated whether they were criminally responsible or whether prolonged abuse and shared delusional disorder, folie deux, had strangled their judgment. One sister offered no remorse in court. Psychiatric assessments suggested a shared psychosis born of isolation, dependency, and betrayal. Were the sisters avengers or broken victims? Social historians point to the structural forces around them: gendered labor, economic precarity, and social invisibility. Others emphasize immediate triggers: an escalating punishment, fear of losing employment, or perceived betrayal. The truth likely includes elements of damage, rage, and catastrophic collapse. The court's verdict and the psychiatric reports fed a public debate about responsibility, punishment, and mercy. The case raised enduring questions. How should law respond when mental illness and social injustice overlap? Did the sisters' treatment get adequate attention before the crime? How did the media shape public memory? The case endures because it refuses a tidy moral. It forces us to examine how societies treat the invisible, servants, the poor, and those who live at the margins. It also asks clinicians and courts how to balance compassion with public safety. The Papin case remains a cautionary tale at the intersection of abuse, mental illness, and the fragility of human bonds. Was this an act of monstrous cruelty, a psychological sickness, or both? The verdict is less important than the questions the case still forces us to ask. Tell us what you think, and if this episode moved you, check the description for primary sources and expert reading.